So, Malaysia. I had never heard of Malaysia, okay? I thought of Malaysia. I've never heard of that country before. I only heard about it once before because I met some crazy person 3 years before, and they're from Malaysia. So, I've never heard of Malaysia. Where is it? Where is it?
Hal yang membuat saya heran itu ya hal ini. Kenapa dia tidak mengenal Malaysia sama sekali? Padahal dia tahu dengan Asia Tenggara. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Bertemu lagi bersama saya di sini Indra SFN. Apa kabar teman-teman semua di sana? Dan selalu setiap saat saya menyapa Anda semua di sana. Semoga kita semua diberikan kemudahan dan kelancaran, rezekinya juga. Dan di bulan suci Ramadan ini amal ibadah kita semua diterima oleh Allah Subhanahu wa taala. Amin amin ya rabbal alamin. Baik, di sini rupanya ada satu cerita, satu kisah, satu video ya guys ya. Yang mana video ini tidak jauh berbeda dengan video yang saya reaksi semalam. Yang mana sedikit saya ceritakan bahwa semalam saya menceritakan kisah tentang wanita asal Inggris. Jadi awalnya wanita asal Inggris ini sama sekali tidak mengetahui dan tidak ingin mencari tahu tentang negara Malaysia. Namun setelah direkomendasikan, terbanglah dia mencoba-coba untuk negara Malaysia. Sampai di Kuala Lumpur, apa yang terjadi guys ya? Ternyata berbeda dari apa yang dia bayangkan sebelumnya. Baik, di sini cerita yang hampir sama akan disajikan. Bahwa diceritakan kisah tentang pria asal Toronto, Kanada. Nah, pria ini guys ya, yang mengatakan bahwa dia sangat faham dengan Asia Tenggara. Oke, di garis bawah ya guys ya, sangat faham dengan Asia Tenggara. Kemana dia sudah pernah memasukinya, termasuk Indonesia, Singapura dia juga tahu, Thailand, dan beberapa negara di Asia Tenggara lainnya. Tapi hanya satu negara yang sama sekali dia tidak kenal, yaitu adalah Malaysia. Nah, kenapa ya guys ya? Dia mengaku paham dengan Asia Tenggara, tapi dia tidak kenal dengan Malaysia. Dia tidak pernah masuk di negara Malaysia. Ada apa? Padahal kita tahu negara Singapura yang dia tahu itu lebih kecil daripada negara Malaysia yang jauh lebih besar dan potensial yang akan dia temukan di sana. Tapi tetap dia lebih paham negara Singapura dan tidak kenal negara Malaysia. Nah, di suatu hari ya guys ya, di tempat yang berbeda, dia berjumpa dengan wanita asal Malaysia. Dia mengaku heran dan juga takjub dengan wanita ini. Kok wanita ini begitu open, begitu ramah ya, begitu beradab ya dia nilai. Nah, wanita tersebut itulah yang membimbing dia, yang mana wanita itu sekarang telah menjadi pasangannya guys. Jadi wanita itu yang membimbing dia untuk memberikan informasi terkait dengan negara Malaysia. Lalu lama-kelamaan dia mulai tertarik dengan negara itu guys. Terbanglah dia ke negara Malaysia dan apa yang terjadi? Di sini dia mengaku sangat heran. Bahkan dia menilai ada satu perbedaan negara Malaysia dengan negara-negara di Asia Tenggara lainnya. Dari wanginya, dia mengatakan di sini, dia sangat heran dengan aromanya saat masuk di Malaysia. Dan juga matanya tidak berhenti untuk menatap bagian-bagian mana dari negara tersebut. Dan di sini kita akan melihat bagaimana ekspresi jujur dari pria asal Toronto tersebut ya guys ya. Bagaimana ekspresi wajahnya setelah masuk negara Malaysia. Oke, sebelum kita lanjut, alangkah baiknya bagi Anda yang belum support, silahkan kalian dukung dulu channel ini dengan mengklik tombol subscribe dan aktifkan notifikasi bell agar tidak ketinggalan update video terbaru dari channel ini. Yes, langsung saja tanpa banyak basa-basi kita akan mereaksi video tersebut bagaimana ekspresi dari pria asal Toronto saat masuk negara Malaysia. Jom.
Okay, so I learned that I love talking about how much I hate Toronto. Maybe I could make a whole channel on it. Except that I definitely would not be able to live in Toronto anymore because Torontonians are particularly patriotic. So today's video is going to be about how I want to leave, and I'm going to kind of tell you about my plan. I don't know why I did that. So my plan right now is to move to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, the best city in the world. Okay, so I don't know if it's the best city in the world, but it's definitely a million times better than Toronto. I have spent quite a bit of time in Kuala Lumpur, and I'm going back soon. I'm so excited. My partner is from KL. That's what cool people call Kuala Lumpur. They don't say Kuala Lumpur. They say KL. You're welcome. So my partner's from KL, and which is the reason why that we went to KL. Well, obviously, why I went to KL for the first time and traveled around Asia, and I was completely shocked. Okay, so Malaysia, I had never heard of Malaysia. Okay, met my partner, and was like, oh, where are you from? And he said Malaysia, and I said, oh. I thought of like, Malaysia. I've never heard of that country before. I only heard about it once before because I met some crazy person like 3 years before, and they're from Malaysia. Turns out that was my partner that I met 3 years before.
Oke, kita pause di sini. Jadi pasangannya itu menanyakan, apakah kamu kenal dengan Malaysia? Saya sepertinya agak sedikit meragukan bahwa memang sebelumnya saya tidak mengetahui. Oke, di sini kita bahas ya guys ya. Di awal dia katakan dia tidak mengetahui sama sekali tentang negara Malaysia. Itu pun karena ditanya oleh pasangannya guys. Oke, kita lanjutkan bagaimana cerita seru ini ya.
I remember this is like this crazy person. Ha 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 ha. He's funny, he's goofy. That's why I'm in trouble now. So, I've never heard of Malaysia. I'm like, where is it? Where is it?
Malaysia.
And now I know where it is. It's basically between Thailand and Indonesia and Singapore. It's kind of like in this peninsula right in the middle of paradise. Yes, the most beautiful place on earth. And it's really funny because I know a lot of people don't know where Malaysia is. I talk to people all the time and I say Malaysia, and they're like, you could tell they're like, the gears are turning in their head. They're like, what's that? Oh, I can't seem stupid. Yeah, Malaysia. People don't know where it is. And then I've been working with people. I've been at my current job for.
Di sini guys, di sini ketika dia ditanya, dia pura-pura mengetahui. Ya Malaysia. Padahal dia tidak paham ya guys ya. Tidak tahu di mana itu Malaysia. Secara dia tahu Indonesia, Singapura, dan Thailand. Tapi Malaysia tidak. Oke, kita dengar ya bagaimana cerita kelanjutan ini.
Almost 3 years now. Shoot me. And I talk to people about, people know I want to move to Malaysia, and they know that I go almost every year. And they still talk to me about my trip to Indonesia. Like, oh, are you excited for my trip to Indonesia? And I'm like, I'm not going to Indonesia. I went to Indonesia last time because I went to Bali. But I'm not going. I'm going to Malaysia. It's kind of like a different country, like pretty different. And no matter how many times I tell them, like everyone I work with, except for like one person I work with is from Indonesia. Actually, I have this new employee, and he's from Malaysia. The best. Malaysians are the most friendly people. So that's one reason why I want to move there. So I go on my trip to Malaysia, and we fly into KL.
Okay.
And we're like, okay, the plane lands, literally went from a 17-hour flight to like a 3-hour flight to get to Malaysia. It was pretty much we flew Cathay Pacific. They were amazing. So I can't say it was the worst experience in the world, but it wasn't ideal flying so long. Our next trip, we're definitely breaking up the flights more. But we arrive in KL, step out of the plane, and I was shocked because it just smelled good. Like, it smelled like tropical flowers and jasmine. And at first I'm like, oh, are they spraying this airport with like a perfume? No. You leave the airport, Malaysia just smells freaking good. KL smells really amazing, like tropical flowers. It is how the area smells, not like, I don't know, Toronto smells like garbage on a good day, okay? It just desensitized to it. When you smell the garbage, you know that it's pungent that day. But this city smells like flowers. And then you look around, okay? First of all, this airport was like the most beautiful airport I've ever seen. The infrastructure was amazing. And there's like huge windows looking out, and we're surrounded by a tropical rainforest. And I was like, wow, this is magical. Okay, they built the airport in the middle of the rainforest. No, 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 no. You leave the airport, the frickin' city is built in a rainforest, except they didn't like massively deforest it and be like, clear this out, we're building a city up in here. They incorporated the natural beauty of the rainforest into the city. And there are parks all over the city that are like little blobs of rainforest because they left it there, and you could see around the city, you see rainforest. And it's a huge city. The skyline is much bigger than Toronto and much more in depth. It reminds me more of like the big city I've ever been to is New York City. So it reminds me of New York City, except nicer architecture. Except imagine New York City, it doesn't smell like sewage, and then it smells like flowers, and then it's like in a rainforest. To die for, okay? So that was my first impression of Malaysia, and even though being super sleep deprived, I was kind of really grumpy. I was falling asleep in the car ride, but I was enchanted. Also, I noticed you could leave the airport, and there was like so many restaurants in the airport, like not like in the secured part where you've already passed security, waiting for your flight, and there's a lot of restaurants. Like you leave the airport, and there's like basically a mall in the airport. Like I don't mean like, oh, there's some shops. There's a freaking mall, okay, with designer stores and lots of restaurants and a giant cafeteria. And I was like, okay, that's weird. Who wants to spend so much time at an airport? Well, you do in Malaysia because it's amazing. And I remember like it was recommended, hey, you're hungry, you've been on the flight for so long, let's just grab some food here at the cafeteria. And I kind of insisted on like leaving because I didn't want to grab cafeteria food. Oh, who wants that after a big flight? That's not how it works in Malaysia. You're in Malaysia, no matter where you go, the food is amazing, especially a cafeteria. You go to a cafeteria, it doesn't mean you're getting the cheap scraps that people in North America just like deep fry to make money. You go anywhere in Malaysia, the food is amazing, and people who live kind of close to the airport, people go to the airport because it is so beautiful and the food is so good. So that was something really cool when I started learning that you're going to be happy with the food no matter where you go. So we get into Malaysia, we go get settled in. I don't know if I sleep for a day or two. And we finally get our tour and we go downtown. Like, I was blown away. Before I left Toronto, I was thinking I lived in like a really advanced modern society. And now I've come back being like, dude, like my city is like ghetto. It is ratchet, to be honest with you. Because when I was in Malaysia, all the architecture is beautiful, but it is high-tech AF. It's like the whole city is Times Square. And you're walking around and there are food stalls everywhere. So yeah, you're in the major city center, okay, and you have nice restaurants, which are much affordable than here. But you have nice restaurants, designer clothing stores, all these shops and boutiques, which you'd expect from a major city center. But then the streets are also flooded with food vendors as well. You can walk down the street and get street food almost anywhere you are, and you're going to be spending like $1. And it's going to be incredible food. Not only that, you're going to be walking down the street and there's going to be some fun music playing, okay? Whether it's live music playing or all the shops invest in having speakers outside their shops and playing nice music. You're walking down the street and it's fun. Here I'm in Toronto and it's like, maybe I thought Toronto was really cool at first because I grew up in a small town and I was like, oh, I'm in a big city. I'm a big boy now. And I walk around Toronto looking around like, wow, it's so big. But, that novelty wears off, especially when you go to like a real city like Kuala Lumpur and it's vibrant. There's music everywhere. Toronto, you want to like leave your house and like actually do something, you're going to come back broke because whether you want to get coffee, that's going to be expensive. If you're hungry, even if you want to be cheap and go to a fast food chain, it's expensive. And God forbid you don't want to go get fast food. It's going to be extremely expensive, and there's nothing to do in the city but consume. There's nothing to do but go somewhere and buy a product and consume it or drink alcohol. There are public spaces, but it's winter most of the year, and there's nothing to do in them. Sure, if you want to go and sit in Trinity Bellwoods Park and do nothing, That won't cost you anything. Okay, I'll give you that. But there's not going to be music provided for you. There's just going to be a bunch of people who don't talk to each other sitting there. Whereas you're in Malaysia, and if you go to these city centers, these city parks, or these places where people commune, there's going to be live music. There's always going to be something cultural happening, something fun and exciting. And the people are warm and inviting, and people start conversations with you. And it is really beautiful. That's why I want to move to KL.
Dan demikian tadi video yang baru saja kita saksikan, guys. Nampaknya ini adalah satu video yang cukup aneh ya, guys ya. Mengapa saya katakan aneh? Bahwa dia mengatakan dia pernah ke Indonesia, dia paham juga dengan Singapura, dia tahu dengan Thailand, tapi dia tak kenal dengan Malaysia. Nah, ketika ditanya oleh pasangannya tersebut, apakah kamu mengenal Malaysia? Dia katakan, itu menandakan dia sangat ragu atau dia tidak mendapatkan informasi yang lebih spesifik lagi tentang negara itu. Dia memang tidak mengetahuinya atau juga malas untuk mencari tahu info terkait tentang negara Malaysia. Padahal banyak ya, banyak tempat wisata yang potensial di sana ya, wisata alam, wisata perkotaan, dan juga lain-lain ya guys ya, termasuk pantai loh ya. Jangan diremehkan pantai ini ada di Malaysia. Nah, di sini ya, hal yang membuat saya heran itu ya hal ini. Kenapa dia tidak mengenal Malaysia sama sekali? Padahal dia tahu dengan Asia Tenggara. Yang disebutkan tadi, Indonesia dia tahu. Singapura lebih kecil lagi daripada Malaysia, dia tahu. Thailand dia paham. Tapi Malaysia, dia tak kenal guys ya. Nah, seperti inilah guys. Seperti inilah yang harus diberikan edukasi ya. Atau promosi-promosi yang lebih gencar lagi oleh negara Malaysia. Agar orang dari negara yang jauh sana guys, Kanada, itu banyak yang memahami negara Malaysia. Ini adalah contoh dari sekian banyak orang yang mungkin belum mengenal negara Malaysia. Jadi, prinsipnya seperti ini. Kalau orang belum kenal dengan negara tersebut, otomatis dia akan ragu untuk mengunjunginya. Nah, ini kita berpikir secara logika ya guys ya. Nah, tapi kalau dia sudah tahu, seperti yang dikatakan oleh turis asing ini, setelah dia masuk ke KL, alangkah terkejutnya dia dengan panorama alam. Bukan hanya itu, ya, bahwa dia mencium ada wangi-wangian yang tidak hilang dari aroma hidungnya itu selama di Malaysia. Dan pemandangan, ya, tidak pernah dia berkedip dengan apa yang dia lihat di sekitar, ya, alam yang ada di sana, guys. Nah, tentu ini akan menarik minat kembali apabila dia pergi ke negara lain. Dia tak akan pernah lupa saat dia pernah mengunjungi negara Malaysia. Bahkan dia bisa balik lagi ke negara itu. Nah, memang Malaysia menjadi daya tarik apabila orang yang sudah masuk itu dijamin akan balik lagi. Tapi, terkhusus untuk orang yang belum mengetahui negara Malaysia itu bagaimana, tentu dia akan sangat-sangat meragukan untuk masuk negara itu karena dia belum paham. Nah, tentu dia perlu adanya promosi-promosi, ya. Bagaimana negara itu mempromosikan keindahan alamnya dan juga infrastrukturnya, kemajuan kemodernan negara itu. Tentu itu apabila dikenal oleh banyak orang, sudah pasti orang tidak ragu lagi untuk terbang negara Malaysia. Apalagi jika sudah masuk negara itu, tentu mereka sudah paham dan mengetahui bagaimana situasi keadaan yang ada di dalamnya. Nah, sama juga lah dengan kisah pria asal Toronto ini yang baru kita dengar tadi, ya. Dia tak mengenal Malaysia, tapi setelah dia paham, dia tahu masuk ke KL, apa yang terjadi? Dia bangga kan? Dia bangga dan begitu excitednya dia saat akan balik lagi ke negara Malaysia. Karena memang betul-betul itulah sebenarnya yang dia tunggu. Dan justru dia lebih bahagia lagi ketika dia menyatakan akan menetap di negara itu. Karena Malaysia itu kan negara yang damai, negara yang nyaman, ya. Tidak akan pernah dijumpai kekerasan di sana. Sangat-sangat minim. Apalagi seumpamanya kita keluar rumah untuk mencari kuliner pada tengah malam, ya, atau kita ingin pergi ngopi, ya guys. Tentu kita pulang pergi akan aman, ya guys. Dan itu yang terjadi selama ini, itulah terjadi di negara Malaysia. Makanya banyak orang turis-turis itu ya tidak takut untuk keluar malam di Malaysia, kapanpun dia bisa beraktivitas di sana. Pokoknya Malaysia itu menjadi surganya bagi mereka. Selain indahnya kota di sana, harga yang sangat murah ini juga merekomendasikan mereka agar cepat-cepat mengemas barang-barangnya untuk terbang langsung ke negara jiran Malaysia. Baik, demikian tadi video aku. Semoga video ini bermanfaat bagi kita semua dan aku mohon undur diri, mohon maaf jika ada kesalahan dan kekurangan, dan aku akhiri. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.